introduce our amazing speaker for today. Erin has an extensive background in ideating early to mid-stage startups with a focus on product development and iteration, operation streamlining, and her work has included specializing in optimizing lean teams to deliver seamless customer-centric experiences. Erin has worked with a focus on implementing AI for customer experience and support. She's founder and advisor at Kral Partners, which Erin will tell you a little bit more about. Very excited to have you here, Erin. Thank you so much, and I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you. So yeah, I'll get started. I'll give myself a little bit of an introduction. Thanks so much for that. So Grail Partners, at Grail Partners, we're a collective of fractional executives, if you will, and we help early stage startups to go to market, also develop their products and understand a little bit more about their customer journey, which I'm highly focused on, all the different touch points along the way that you might interact with your customer and how to make that more of a robust offering for individuals. So we're highly focused on CX. But today I want to talk to you guys about chatbots and how to implement them into your company if you're considering. So the topic today, AI chatbots for customer experience, build or buy. So this is obviously an interesting topic. And if any of you are planning on launching any kind of customer experience or customer support chatbot, this is a little different than what we've been experiencing, which was, just a chat functionality that would prompt answers to questions, so long as the individual or customer was seeking the right verbiage to trigger that response, right? So we've come a long way, and some of the chatbots that are out there right now are really amazing, that have already been built by several different companies. But there is the question, should you build your own, right? And so we're going to go through those pros and cons today to see what might fit or make sense for your company. So, of course, what are AI chatbots? So I think everyone here is probably very familiar with the difference. They use a natural language, right? So a lot of chatbots that you've interacted with previously utilize a database of help center articles or how you focus on, basically helping your customers along the way. A lot of these are article based, where they'll prompt an article and say, is this helpful or useful to you? And when you're not actually getting the answer you need, you would then escalate it to a real person. So a lot of us have interacted at that point. Where AI is changing things is the natural language and the learning capabilities that they have, right? So if you're interacting with a chatbot, it's very easy for you to feel like you're talking to a real person. They use real language. They actually draw on customer experience representatives or customer support representatives giving answers previously to other customers. So they ingest that information and they're able to utilize that in future and learn from that and give better, more robust answers to your customers. So some of the ones I've interacted with are phenomenal. It's like I'm talking to a real person, and sometimes it's even better than talking to a real person because you're not waiting. They're getting you answers very quickly. So again, natural language processing, machine learning to develop better, of course, personalized experience. So again, implementing and putting forth your product and information that you think is most valuable to your customers. And then availability, super exciting. You can actually have one online all the time. You don't have to have a customer support representative in all of your areas, depending if you're multi-country, multinational organization. Okay, the benefits of AI chatbots. So we're kind of going through those. Improved customer satisfaction. So that's a no-brainer. Quicker response times is going to be able to help with that, right? People need answers immediately. People don't like to wait for a little bubble for people to type. It's annoying. Maybe you need an immediate answer. Sometimes you're working and you have to jump to something else and you might even forget that you asked a question. So this is really quick responses. Again, pulling from a database of information and learning that you've already populated. So it's quick and it's going to get to those answers and understand what that person is asking for. And obviously the feedback helps train that, right? Real-time availability. So that 24/7 access is really valuable if you're looking to scale your company. If you want to be in multiple regions, it's hard to actually have people answering or being available for escalation to support people. So this is a really valuable way to scale your company and ensure that people are being able to access your customer support team. So faster response times we've already talked about. And then a big one, and I know it's on the mind of everybody, is reducing operational costs. For example, a company I worked for, we had customer support representatives in every continent, in every time zone. We wanted to make sure that there wasn't a gap there. But as you might imagine, that's very expensive over time to have people there, right? So being able to reduce that and fulfill those different time zones and get information to a customer right away is really valuable to us. And so then we can have somebody manage it and have an escalation process. So if it's something that needs immediate assistance, escalate it up to a person. But a lot of these things, and I would say probably about 90% of our chats are actually able to be intervened and handled by AI without it being escalated to a real person. So build versus buy. What's the difference here? Again, cost resourcing are required, right? So you need to think about where you're at in a company. At each stage, you have the ability to build or buy. What a lot of companies are doing, especially larger companies, are actually building their own. And if you're going to do that, obviously it's a very high price tag initially. There's a lot of development, a lot of information and data that needs to go into it to make sure that it's really robust and it's functioning and servicing the customers to the standard of that company. So building it is a large undertaking. Small companies, again, if you're savvy, if you have engineers that are familiar with doing these kinds of things, it can be really easy to stand up, sometimes days, sometimes a few months, but the cost is there, right? So again, the customization and integration needs for that. And then of course, maintenance and updates, and then scalability. So there's a lot of functionality that happens here, but building your own long-term will be very interesting if you're looking to customize those journeys and continuing to iterate on product, and feeding that information in is really valuable. But you have to remember, there's going to be a lot to maintain and have your engineers also be available to make sure everything is up to date and checking that. So it's all dependent on how you want to present this information to your customers, and whether it's a large benefit to your company overall. So of course, building AI chatbots in-house, we talked about that, a little summary. Of course, it requires a dedicated team of developers, data scientists, and UX designers. This approach allows for complete customization and control over the chatbot's functionality. Again, can be time-consuming and expensive to develop and maintain. So buying pre-built AI chatbot solutions. So I've interacted with several of these. I personally am a really big fan of this. Large companies do use this. So companies like Microsoft and Amazon, they implement Intercom, for example, and it's a really great resource. And so what that tells me and should tell you is that they're actually on the cutting edge of what companies like that need and what kind of data they need. So they're building really great products that can actually facilitate what your needs are. So again, buying pre-built AI chatbot solutions can be attractive options for businesses looking to quickly implement. So if you're a young company, I highly recommend this. They're a lot more affordable off the get-go. However, they can ramp up very quickly depending on your usage. And a lot of them use query-based modeling. So that means for every query that a customer sends, you're actually being charged for those. So that's how they make their money off of AI chat. So it's a lot to consider. If you have a high volume of customers coming through, it might be interesting to go the build route for the long run. Again, initial investment is quite high, but coming into long term, it might actually save you money. So there's lots to think about the size of your company, and about how much information you need to provide, and if you need customization or scalability for your company. So again, to give an example for company A, if they were to build their own AI chatbot, standardized, again, depending on the size and the amount of information you want to implement and how you want to trigger those responses. Of course, if you want to implement your own brand and tone and things like that, it can take anywhere between 3 to 6 months, right? The budget, 20,000 to $1 million. It all depends on how you want to do it, how robust you want this to be, what level of customization. So it's so variable in the cost and what you need to put forth. Customer satisfaction. Again, the data is early, but we're looking at a lot of the feedback. So NPS scores, so net promoter scores, things like CSAT, so customer satisfaction feedback. We're getting early information on that, but we're looking at around a 90% customer satisfaction rate from the interactions with the bot. So that's not with escalation to a real human, just the interaction with the bot alone, a 90%. So that's quite good. And then cost savings. So reducing customer support costs by 25%. I actually think that's quite low. I think you can go higher. It all depends on what your company is looking at. There's somebody that is going to actually need to overview and maintain this aspect of things. Again, the customer support side of things is probably a lot higher than 25%. So the world is your oyster on how much you want to put in to these chatbots to make sure that they're doing the job and they're really answering to the standard and effectiveness of a real person. Company B. So this is looking at advisor pre-built. So all of the different perspectives, rapid deployment. This one, we talk about 2 weeks on average. It all depends on what you have. If you already have a help center in place, if you already have articles and some kind of database or system, you can actually input that information very quickly and have that generating answers immediately and learning from your team. So 2 weeks is probably the amount of time it would take for it to learn from your system, but you can have it implemented in days. So setting it up, getting that information in there and having it up and running and fully functioning and speaking in natural language can take as little as 2 weeks. High customer satisfaction. So, we have 85% here. Again, this depends on your company, how much information you're willing to put in and feed into that system. But again, if escalation needs to happen thereafter, if some systems do have some limitations in what they're capable of doing, and how they're capable of answering, right? So let's say that there was a product issue or they need to troubleshoot. AI might not be able to do that. So an escalation point might need to happen, where if you're actually customizing your own chatbot, it is possible for you to have another way of troubleshooting and implementing those perspectives into the process of helping a customer to the end of their journey with you. Cost savings, we talked about that. About 20%. Again, I think that this is higher. You can really have great interactions. These are really great tools that are out there now, specifically Intercom that I've worked with very closely. This one is getting very, very savvy. The answers, it can, even when a real human is interacting, they can generate AI generated notes and actually implement that into their chat in case they're not savvy or there might be an answer that they actually didn't consider or might not know. So they can generate that answer and have it pulled into the chat for them, or they can edit it slightly and actually come across more professionally and in a consistent tone that is in line with the brand. So there's lots of ways to look at that with the cost savings, but I do see this as being definitely reducing your customer service team. I would say probably more along the lines of 50%. Scalable solution, right? So the pre-built chatbot platform provides a scalable and flexible solution, enabling companies to handle increased customer inquiries. Again, it's not as scalable or as customizable, if you will, as if you were to build your own. But they are doing a lot here and they're taking a lot of feedback. And again, I mentioned they're working with really major companies like Microsoft, and that kind of feedback that they're giving is allowing them to make this a really robust tool. So you're getting the benefit of them working with those large companies and those really interesting perspectives. Not only that, they actually are leading the way and they know the direction that these bots are going. So really great asset here. And again, improved overall operational efficiency. So having these chatbots, you can set up really amazing different nodes of how you want it to be triggered at what action points. Some of them actually implement with email as well, which is really great. So all of your support emails can be collaborated and put together as one, and you can create triggering systems from there as well. So that's another level of going over into the email side of things and pulling that data into email responses as well. So there's a lot you can do operationally. And then create your own escalation points. So when you actually think this needs to move up the ladder to an individual to take a look at. Otherwise, so the comparisons. Let's do a quick comparable. Looking at the feature upfront costs, Again, looking to build, it is high, typically requires significant investment in infrastructure, software development, and IT resources. That is true. If you already have a savvy team that knows this, sometimes you can stand it up much quicker, but do know that you'll have to have that maintenance in place and making sure that everything is consistent with your product development and the product journey and overall customer journey. Um, Looking at upfront costs of buying. So again, lowest solution, it's already developed and can be implemented quickly, ready to go. Customization, really high on the build side. You can make it your own and have a whole series of triggers and understanding to fit exactly how you service your customer. On the buy side, moderate. There's not a lot of customization here, but there's a lot that they've already built that can actually tell you and inform you on how to build out your customer service, right? So some people aren't even operating in this way. So implementing these processes can be really great for your company if you already want to map and kind of a plug and play idea. Time to deploy. Here it says long. I've put long, which is typically the truth if you're looking at large scale. But some of these can be stood up pretty quickly. But remember that machine learning piece has to be monitored and ensure that it's actually answering and giving the right suggestions and recommendations based on your data. Again, short implementation time, days to weeks, really quick. You can have it working and operating very, very fast. Again, coming into the maintenance piece for building, you have to maintain it. You'll have to have someone fully allocated to the maintenance of the product. And then on the buy side, low. So as a vendor, they're fully responsible for maintaining and updating the solution. And then also taking you through their product roadmap, which is always exciting and gives you ideas and lead up into what you can and should be doing or thinking about for next steps. So yeah, overall, it's up to you as a company. Probably one of the most major pieces here for the build version is data compliance and security. We always have to mention that. Everyone's worried about where this information goes when you're using a third party. There's only so much that they can protect. They're pulling in a lot of sensitive information into their system, and then they're generating information and feeding that back to your customer. So there's always a risky perspective there. Again, partnering with really reputable companies would be my recommendation. You know, making it a more affordable option. That's not always the case. There's lots out there. But again, this is up to where your company is at, what you guys actually do, and the kind of information that you need to be secure with. Definitely the build version would be better in that perspective. But there is a lot of maintenance that's happening on that side with the buy side. And so that's it for me. I would love to take some questions if anyone has any questions or any feedback, or if anyone else has implemented something on their side, or what is their experience with AI chatbots. Would love to open up the conversation.
Thank you so much, Erin.
Of course.
Everyone, you can put down any questions that you have in the Q&A, and Erin would be sure to answer them. But also, Erin, this was so well put together, so succinct, and very, very helpful, as I'm sure everyone agrees. There is one question in the chat box, which says, what industries seem to be the most mature to adopt these?
So right away, I'm going to say a lot of tech companies, right? Because resources are very important there. And I think there's a lot of information already stored online for them, right? So they have a lot of information in their own database. So it's a lot easier to populate this information and get it live very quickly. So tech companies seem to be implementing it. Telecommunication companies were probably the first to come out and start using it because their customer support is notoriously terrible. So this was a big project and uplift that I've seen telecommunications implement. But to be honest, I'm seeing it everywhere. I'm seeing it in CPG. I'm seeing it, you know, for example, H&M built their own because they have a really, you know, great online shopping experience. And so they wanted to make sure they continued that with live support and giving really great feedback to their customers and being able to help them navigate that. So it's across the way. I know Bank of America built their own. But again, as I mentioned, Microsoft, Spotify, they all have Microsoft has implemented ones that were purchased, and they work directly with those companies to kind of, you know, build a more robust experience for themselves, but they can turn around and then release that product and those implementations to the public. So lots of different sectors. And I think this is honestly, if you have a website and you have a service of any kind, this is very important to consider. So someone said, why would a tech company not want to implement something like this apart from budget restrictions? I don't have an objection to that. I think they should. I think everyone should. And people have questions. And if they're emailing, someone random and you're just kind of like scaling up and you don't really have a customer support, even department in your company, this is a really great way to fast track that and put something in place and have something generating feedback to a customer without fully building out that section as well. So I think it's really valuable at any point in your business, especially early times, because you're getting feedback, you're determining interaction and interest in your product as well. So this goes beyond customer support. This goes into so many sectors, right, of actually collecting leads and understanding how people are interacting with your product. So the data alone is really valuable.